Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Apurv Malik, and I welcome you all here in this webinar session being conducted by TNV Academy as the host of the day. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Ajay Bajpai. In this webinar today, Mr. Ajay Bajpai will discuss about environmental policy as per clause 5.2 of ISO 14001 standard. Mr. Ajay Bajpai has audited several organizations for various management system standards and has helped several others for their implementation. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, has done his bachelor's in engineering in metallurgy stream. He is also a lead auditor in ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 37001, 22000, 27001, 13485, 22301, and 50001 standards, respectively. He has an industrial experience of around 15 plus years as implementer of management system standards and around 32 plus years in auditing and certification. He has been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs, and individuals on various topics related to ISO terminologies and their certification and implementation. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajay Bajpai. I may request Mr. Ajay Bajpai now to please take over and start the webinar.
Good morning, all the participants for this webinar on environmental policy, which is specifically moving towards the environmental goals and the global requirements also are related to this because we all understand that global warming is on, ozone layer depletion is on. We all are feeling the pinch of the temperature rise. Glaciers are, you know, happening what everybody knows. So the situation globally is not very good with respect to the environment. So this is a subject which will touch upon those kind of requirements because any organization who is attempting to have environment management system certification, they will have the beginning from the documentation and implementation of environmental policy. So that's most of the time the beginning of the starting of the implementation for ISO 14001. So policy is very important for that respect, and this is the responsibility of top management. It is the board of directors, the chairman, the top management. Depending upon who is the top management, they will plan and decide depending upon what is their vision, what is their mission, how they are looking at their role into the safeguarding of the environment. And accordingly, they are looking at the formulation of the environmental policy. So they will plan, they will document, they will implement it as a team, as a guiding force by the top management. It should be appropriate to the purpose and context of the organization. What happens that we have got a scope, we have got activity, we have got business plans, we have got customers, we have got statutory and regulatory boards. So the context of organization of the this thing should be related directly to the environmental policy. It should not look that we are talking something different. Sometimes in third party auditing we find that there is a variation from what is the context of organization with respect to the nature, scale, and environmental impacts and its activities. In the standard, everywhere the impact is very important. We have discussed aspect impact in few of the webinars. So environmental impact is the one which needs to be looked into very detailed and calculative method, and it is also spelled in various clauses of the standard with respect to what activities, the products and services we have. So the policy needs to be related to all these activities, products, processes, services, what are the aspects, impacts, what is the nature of the organization, what they are supposed to do. They are into export, import, where the pollution controls are getting impact because of the aspect not being controlled or aspect being identified which are not controlled, and so The policy is having the reference of all these activities so that we can further control it. It should also have a framework of setting the environmental objectives. Once formulated, how the environmental policy will be implemented, it will be achieved in the organization. That is done by setting the environmental objectives, which definitely should be smart, as we have been discussing, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, target oriented. So it is the smart objectives, environmental objectives, which will lead to the successful achievement of the environmental policy in the organization. It also includes a commitment to satisfy applicable requirements. There are various applicable requirements for an organization. The moment an organization is going to be set up, there is a thing called planning. You are going to plan the establishment of organization. So the consent to establish, consent to install the organization, consent to put up all the the manufacturing or servicing activities into the organization is one part, and then taking the consent of running the organization from the applicable legal authorities and the customer requirement and the requirements of other interested parties all are intending towards environmental policy. So environmental policy needs to show its commitment here that yes, we will be meeting all these applicable requirements and we will work toward the satisfaction of these applicable requirements. Also, since the 14,000 is directly talking of protection of the environment, prevention of pollution, and specific commitment relevant to the context of the organization. So whatever the directions of the organization, the business model of the organization, the internal resources, the external resources, the internal requirement, the external requirement, through environmental policy, documentation and implementation, it should show that yes, we are working towards the prevention of the pollution. Pollutions will be there whenever any activity is on. Even the small service organization which is just using some electricity and water will create some kind of pollution which needs to be measured, and then it needs to be indicated, documented directly, indirectly by policy and objectives so that we are showing that yes, we are planning towards the reduction. Our aim is to see that yes, we can control and then reduce it. So this is the theme and requirement of environmental policy. We have seen some organizations, the employee will try to remember it by heart. So that is not the idea. We'll discuss further that they should understand the theme of it. Policy should be understood by theme as a concept. Then it can be audited and improvements can be brought about, because the whole thing is talking about improvement into environment management system and environmental policy utilization with the help of environmental objectives. So let's go further. What all should have further? It should also meet the compliance obligation. Compliance obligation means the legal requirement of the state, legal requirement of the country, the legal requirement at times as raised by the some other interested party or by the customer at times. So they need to be shown into the environmental policy. Also, we need to include that yes, continual improvement is the direction which needs to be shown from the environmental policy, and then performance of environmental management system needs to be enhanced, increased performance, whatever we are at 90%, 95% level, we need to further enhance to 95, 96, 97%. That is the thing. Also, the policy shall include what? It should be available as a documented information. It can be hard copy, it can be soft copy, it can be on website, wherever, but it should be maintained as a. If document is not available, then we as an auditor may raise a non-conformity and observation depending upon what we observe when we conduct the audit. It needs to be communicated within the organization. The organization team must be aware of their environmental policy in theme, in concept, not in verbatim only. The policy needs to be made available to the interested party. We are in the process of implementation of 14,001 into the organization. We are a manufacturer of, say, generators, and we have suppliers who are supplying us some of the components and material which will go as a final assembly into our DG set. So if these interested parties, which include the vendors, the suppliers, or the transporters, if they do not understand the theme of our policy or it is not available to them, how they will meet our requirements. So it needs to be communicated to the interested party. There can be other specific commitment also towards the protection of the environment, and as we say SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, and sustainable resources to be used and utilized. The resources are always limited in the globe. Into the organization, whatever organization we are a car manufacturer. We don't have unlimited resources within the organization or surrounding of the organization or within the city and the country. The resources are always limited. So we need to utilize them effectively so that we don't waste them. The waste management needs to be taken care from that concept. Climate change mitigation and adoption. Climate change are taking place as we discussed in the beginning. So those changes we need to adopt. We need to understand how well we can adopt and how well our resources can be utilized. We may need heating, we may need cooling during our working into the office or the factory or into the servicing time wherever we are. So we need to see that we can utilize them effectively. We don't, over utilize them and waste them, so that our generations will need to have them protected. And the protection of biodiversity and ecosystem. Ecological system, we need to see that it is kept balanced as far as possible. Whatever bit we do as an organization, as an employee, we need to do it. We may be sitting into a small consulting or certification body or a training organization, but yes, we have the water, we have the electricity, we have the paper, we have the utilization of other resources, the oil and the food items, the energy being consumed there into the cooking of the food. These are small things, but they count for a lot. Whatever small things we can take action into the control of this ecosystem and biodiversity, it will be an add-on to the safeguard of the globe, and further resources can be increased or enhanced. We can maybe increase 0.001%, but that's a contribution from our side as an employee, as an organization. Then what are the desired results? Why we are talking of environmental policy, and what happens when we are going for the implementation of this? The organization team is trained on what? On the concepts of environmental policy. As I said in the beginning, not verbatim, not by heart. Use your mind and heart together, I always say, and we always say, so that conceptually it is clear and our heart and mind both is working towards the implementation of the environmental policy. And when we as an auditor want to understand the organization team's role, we don't look at the words. We don't want them to just read out the policy. We ask them, what is your role? What is your contribution towards the implementation of this environmental policy, which is documented with the help of entire team, of course. That's what we'll discuss further. Also, the policy give assurance to the environment management system that yes, intended results can be achieved. Intended results are what? Again, coming back to the theme of PDCA, plan, do, check and act, and management principle, and meet the global requirements by environment management systems, and also the customer requirements. There are a lot of customers who want an organization to implement EMS. Why? because they want their products, their services to be served under a safe environmental condition where pollution controls are taken care of, biodiversity is controlled, the global requirements are set right. So customers have those concepts. So that is why they want EMS to be implemented by the organization. The policy and the theme should be auditable. You know, auditable in the sense that the language should be clear, it should be meaningful, it should be logical. Because sometimes in auditing we ask the questions, but the auditor himself says, "Sir, the language I'm not clear." So maybe he might have just tried to read the language, not understood the concept, and it is going on. And once set, it is not there forever. Sometimes this happens a problem as a into surveillance audits also. Maybe somebody might have overlooked, or somebody into the last audit, might not have gone into that detail. There are mistakes done by each and every part, because that is what we know into the audit, that yes, something has been missed out. So now something has been missed out earlier can be taken care by now, because sometimes we get that kind of statement from auditee and auditor says, "Sir, why it had not been seen earlier?" That's okay. We into auditing, our auditors are always into a lot of pressure. So and they're also human beings. They can miss something at times. So the language meaning should be logical and it should be conceptually clear. It meets the needs of the interested parties. We have got interested parties. We know what are the interested parties. We as an organization team, our customer, our state regulatory boards, our auditors, first, second party, third party auditors, customers, the final customers, all are interested parties. So whenever we are into manufacturing and service part and we have got a environment policy, it should meet all their requirement, because they have got needs and expectation out of the organization. It also needs to meet the vision, mission and direction of the top management. Okay. So top management, as we discussed in the beginning, they are going to bring out the environmental policy through their vision, mission and direction which top management has shown to them. What are their business plans and so on. So let's go further. Sorry, the weather is changing, so sneezing maybe sometimes here and there. So now we get into the planning activity. Now, what are we going to do in the organization? The documentation of policy, environmental policy, needs to be done by seeing that yes, it is logical, the language is correct, it is understood, and it meets the requirements of all those as we discussed. Then it needs to be approved by the respective authority. Sorry. The environmental policy, when documented, needs to be approved by the respective authority. Whosoever is the top management in the organization, it can be the chairman, it can be the MD. In some situation, it can be the general manager, who is the top most organizational head into the situation of a particular unit, and that unit is going for certification. So, depending upon who is the authorized person, he can approve it. Then we need to provide the training to the team that yes, this is the environmental policy. They need to understand the concept and the themes and the written down meanings, hidden meanings into the policy. As we read more, we can find more and more meanings out of it. Then we come to display part of it. It needs to be how we make it seen that yes, the team is understanding the environmental policy in the organization. It is displayed by various cards, various boards, physically. It is available on various websites of the organization and units as per the setup of the organization. It is also displayed through various software, SAP, ERP, whatever software the organization has for implementation of 14,001 standard into the organization. They use the software to see that environmental policy is trained and implemented through the organization, and it is also communicated throughout the organization and all interested parties, which can be whatever it is: intranet, internet, software, training into the conference room, displayed through websites, showing onto the monitor, keeping a policy card, keeping a policy, manual, environmental policy manual procedures, whatever way they want to do it, it needs to be communicated. Going further into action plan. So there needs to be an action plan for environmental policy implementation. It cannot be implemented just by that, by saying into a conference room that yes, we have formulated the environmental policy and it will be implemented from tomorrow or today onwards. There need to be an action plan for that. Okay, so this is how step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. This is our environmental policy implementation procedure or work instruction or SOP. Through that, we will be implementing it. And then monitoring. We have implemented it. So now the monitoring of the processes and the policy as per the plan is important. Unless we monitor, we don't know the direction of the implementation of the policy. So once we do the monitoring, then the analysis comes. After monitoring, we understand what has been written wrongly, what has not been understood correctly, what communication has not been done correctly, what are more words required. Interested parties have given some feedback that needs to go into the rewriting of the policy, because policy once written is not the final, because initially whenever the environmental policy is developed, it is always a draft status when we are going into implementation. Then further, many organizations will go for a chart of implementation. They will say this is our chart of implementation of environmental policy, and they keep tracking so that the effective implementation is on. We go further, implementation is on now. Now, along with the environmental policy, other documents in the organization has also been developed. So the EMS is being implemented into the organization, and we are today looking at with respect to the environmental policy, how the policy is getting reflected. So what we do, our aim is what? Enhance the effectiveness of policy implementation. Today, we are seeing it something which has been documented in the month of October. October 10th, the policy has been documented. It has been, the training has been done, implementation has started. So now, when we look at 4th November, we need to see that yes, what is the enhancement? What is the policy effectiveness into the organization? We talk to the operators, we talk to workers, we talk to managers, because the implementation is on. So we need to have a communication done through them, and we see how we can enhance the effectiveness. If somebody has not understood, we will make him understood. Somebody has not read, we will make him read. Somebody has not seen the website, we'll tell them that it is also available on website. So please go through it, please see through it. Then whatever planning charts we have for the policy and objective implementation, policy is implemented through environmental objectives. So we see through the planning charts, and we see that yes, the data, whatever we had in the beginning, in the October month, is now updated in November, and further it will be updated in December. So then we can track it. It needs to be done through a accurate and precise calculation after implementation. Rough calculation, rough assessment, feelings and thought are not welcome. That is where the non-conformities are seen into internal audit and external audit, where people have not done the correct calculations. They have just said, yes, yes, it is going on. It is implemented, sir, in the unit 1, unit 2. How much is the implementation? 80%? 90%? 99%? 99.9%? That is how we talk of calculation. We have done an analysis through the operators. There we find 90% implementation. We do an accurate calculation through the managerial level implementation. There it is 89.9% maybe. So that is how we need to do the calculations and see that we can enhance the effectiveness and we move on. And we always believe in reviewing the data, facts and figures with involvement of all. The team involvement is very, very critical. We always say whenever the organization going into the drafting of the organization, it is not only done by an external consultant. The team should be involved. Sometimes we see the issues and problems into third party auditing. We understand that it is only documented by an external consultant. The team was not involved. That is reflected in few minutes of the audit. So then non-conformities are raised. Sometimes the certifications are put on hold, follow-up audits are done. So all this depends upon how well the implementation is there and how well the data and facts and figures and the involvement of the team is seen into the implementation of the environmental policy. So it's all about the involvement of the team and facts and figures. Once we see that, we go further. Now we are into analysis mode and we plan the future actions. So study, as you said in the beginning, is very, very important. And study by utilizing the small groups, cross-functional teams. We are into production department. There is a small team of production. We are into a design discussion. So there is a cross-functional team, and they are thinking of environmental policy into a design function. So when design discussion is going on, various cross-functional team members are there. Maintenance team member is there. Engineering team person is there. Purchase person is there. The marketing person is there. So there they discuss the environmental policy. So and then they understand that marketing has got some issues. They understand they are reaching the customer. There are some issues. So when we discuss into small groups, when we are discussing into a group of production or inspection, a small group, they understand that one of the production machines operator have not understood it. He has understood it, but implementation is not adequate. The writing is not seen onto the wall. He cannot read it. Maybe there is a language problem. He is from a Kannada speaking area and the language is English, so he cannot understand. So these are things which are understood by small group activities only. So it is important to do that. Then we have to monitor the data by various statistical SPC, SQC techniques, cause and effect diagram, Pareto analysis, the run charts to see what is the direction of environmental policy implementation. It is going in the positive direction, negative direction. The charts will show us the direction. The data analysis will show us the direction that yes, unit 1 is 99% implemented for environmental policy. Unit 2, production department is only 80% effective. Unit 3, inspection department 95% effective. So with respect to environmental policy implementation and understanding. So this is what we understand when we do the data analysis by using various techniques. If we don't use various data analysis, we don't understand and we just go by feelings. So facts and figures needs to be analyzed to reach to a positive conclusion where the improvements can be brought about further into the organization. Then we come to a situation where the implementation is on. Few weeks, few months have gone, and now we have come to a situation of conduct of internal audit for environmental policy implementation. Of course, the documentation also will be studied, the training will also be studied. So internal audit will review all these activities, how the documentation has been done, what is the language of the policy, what is the sense of the policy, whether it is understood or not, whether the interested parties have been involved or not, whether it has been communicated to them, whether it has been communicated, the mail has been sent, but whether they have seen the mail or not, whether they have understood what is written into the mail or not, whether they have opened the attachment into or not. You have sent it to the purchasing department of the supplier or customer. He has received it, but he had not bothered to open the attachment. He was busy in other things. Maybe but it is our duty as an implementer of the environmental policy in our organization throughout the process of the implementation, while where involvement of all including interested parties is typically important to have a successful EMS implemented into the organization through environmental policy and objectives. So we verify that into the internal audit, and internal auditor must be aware of the implementation of and the theme of environmental policy. So we always say into the training, anybody and everybody just like that cannot conduct the audit of environmental policy implementation. He needs to have a good checklist. He himself should be clear onto the concept of environmental policy. Why this is documented? What is the reason? What is the theme? Where all it should reach? And what the facts and figures have shown earlier. He should take reference of all this before getting into the internal audit. His checklist by MR or the system coordinator of EMS must have been clearly handed over to him, clearly discussed. He should have a checklist, he should have a report format before conducting the internal audit of the policy implementation. So it is important that yes, it is done effectively and we are able to get the results. Good number of non-conformities observation as are there into depending upon the system implementation are documented effectively, analysis is done, and that analysis along with the other things is going into now to management review meeting, where the team of management is going to discuss how is the environmental policy implementation in the organization during the last 3 or 4 months of the implementation of environmental policy. From August onward, what is the status, where all it has been implemented, how it has been communicated, what are the analysis coming out of internal audit, what are the results, what NC observation has been raised by trained and qualified internal auditors, particularly for auditing of environmental policy. So they discuss it into details with the team of managers, team of implementers, team of top management, and then they decide whether the draft of policy is adequate or not. It sometimes organization will just say and think, yes, environmental policy documented trend very well, fine, okay. But that's not the correct way. A detailed analysis needs to be done at least into the beginning of the implementation when drafting is done, because it is only drafting of the policy, so we can always revise, and it is not that the policy cannot be revised later on. Organization will revise their policies after a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending upon their business plan, depending upon the context of organization being changed, depending upon the internal strategy, external strategy being changed, depending upon the business plan changing with respect to the pollution controls, with respect to the biodiversity, with respect to the communication channels, with respect to the method of implementation. So all these things are discussed in details in management review meeting, and then the action plans are documented, responsibilities are defined that yes, for enhancement of policy implementation into the unit 1 production department or into the unit 3 in Singapore, these are the actions to be done, these are the person responsible, or in Vietnam, this is what needs to be done in our Vietnam unit, because it is only 89% implementation have been reported from there. So we need to discuss all this, and the responsibility authority needs to be decided for creating a chart of tracking of management review meeting with respect to environmental policy, and those are implemented by those who are made responsible, and it is tracked by the team that yes, implementation is going on effectively, and monitoring is very very important. If monitoring is not done effectively, and if further actions are not identified, and if future plans are not adequately implemented and planned, then we are not adequately implementing the environmental policy, and the result will not be as desired. Desired results are what? Improvement. We are all moving towards a continual improvement with implementation of environmental policy. Environmental policy itself should improve continually, and it should also improve the EMS through implementation of environmental management system with the effective utilization of resources, manpower for environmental policy implementation. So what all we have discussed today is we have gone into the what are the requirements, how it is to be established by top management, it needs to be adequate to the purpose and the context of the organization, what product services they have, it should have a framework for objectives, it should satisfy all the applicable requirement and commitment for pollution control, protection of environment and compliance obligation. Then policy should have also have indications of continual improvement. It should be documented, communicated, other specific requirement as needed, available to all interested parties. These are the desired results. The language needs to be under control. The method should be meaningful. It should be available to interested party. It should show the vision and mission of the top management. This is what, as a lead auditor, when you go to audit top management, you need to ask the question whether the policy, environmental policy, is indicating to what they have as a vision and mission of the company and the direction for the future operation, business operation of the company. Then planning of the implementation, training, availability by various ways, communicating within the organization and throughout the all interested parties, vendors, suppliers, customers, service providers. Then implement as per the plan. There you need a plan, work instruction, procedure, whatever way you want to implement it, but there has to be method to implement it. Then implementation is done along with the implementation of other systems, other procedures, so that you can link it with how it is being implemented into inspection, how it is being implemented into the marketing function, and how we can enhance the effectiveness. And then we are reviewing the data, facts, and figures. We always do correct calculations, and then we come to the analysis part of it. So we study it not alone, a single person. We study in small groups and cross-functional teams. We do a lot of data analysis. Data is there. We need to analyze it. And data analysis gives us the directions. Then we conduct an effective internal audit of policy implementation. Then we review it through effective management review meeting by involvement of the team members who has got data in front of them. Data is coming from here and here. They have the data in front of them, and then they take effective action into the management review meeting. That is implemented and monitor for further actions and future plans, because that is not the end of the thing. We have just passed 3 months, 4 months. First internal audit is done. What will happen when we do second internal audit? What will happen when stage one audit is done? So it's a progress which is on, and the improvement are seen through first internal audit, second internal audit, stage one audit, stage two audit, first surveillance, second surveillance, third surveillance. That is the recertification at times. So what improvements are going on? So this is all we thought we will discuss, and when we complete this, we are approaching to our certification. So we have got certification body websites available here with us, which are very informative. One can visit the websites and gain more and more knowledge onto the policy implementation and certification process through implementation of policy. So this is what I thought I'll discuss in this critical subject of policy, environmental policy, which is a global need with respect to ISO 14001 system, because we have glaciers are not there, they are melting, the global warming is increasing, the wars are creating the temperature. So whatever little bit we can do by understanding of this, and whatever bit an individual or organization or even the peon or the helper or the guard of the company can do, it will add to the value of the environment, which is the need of the hour today. So thank you very much. And now if you have any questions, you can ask.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, does environmental policy also helps an organization to achieve its sustainable development goals?
Yes, definitely, because one of the sustainable development goal is to see that environment is protected. So environment protection, the pollution control, all this is part of environmental policy, and that is one of the leading points towards sustainable development goals.
Thank you, sir.
So I have a question. Is environmental policy needs to be available as a public document on our website or somewhere else?
आपके माइक में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, इसमें तो दिवाली का पटाखा फूट रहा है, इसको थोड़ा सा ठीक करें, प्लीज करेक्ट योर माइक एंड स्पीक अगेन, आई कुड नॉट हियर एनीथिंग.
Sir, I am asking on his behalf.
ओके.
He was saying that the environmental policy should be available as a public document, maybe on the website of the organization or through any other medium.
It helps. It is one of the suggested media and methods, because then all interested parties will know it automatically. Any interested party who is visiting the website, whether it is the customer, it is the inquiry, or it is the the supplier or customer, they will automatically be clear of the organization environmental policy, and their working forward in future will help the organization and the globe as such.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. My question is, who is responsible for develop the environmental policy or other documents related to environmental, and any qualification need for develop the policy and procedures?
You see, it is first of all the top management shall establish. So top management will normally be giving the directions that this is how this needs to be implemented. And in principle, any organization, and as per the requirement, also will nominate a management representative or an EMS coordinator, who along with the team, as I said, it is a team working. It is a team who will be documenting and then further implementing the environmental policy into the organization. As far as the qualification is concerned, he should understand the requirement of the standard. He should know what are the requirements into the 14,001 clause 5.2. So that much he should know. And then he, with the help of the others and with the direction of the top management, can document the policy and implement the policy with the help of the team. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
If any other participants has any questions, they can please ask. If not, I would say that if you do not have any questions as of now, the rest of the participants, they can always place their question in the comment section of the video, which will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. And we will passing on those questions to Mr. Ajay Vajpayee, and he will be definitely answering them. We can now come to the conclusion of this particular session. I would say that we are glad that we have been benefited so much by the knowledge shared by Mr. Ajay Vajpayee on such a vast and complex terminology, which is also a very critical element in the implementation of ISO 14001 standard. I can also say with much confidence that our participants must have enjoyed the context of today's webinar, and it will be definitely adding value to their expertise and domain of work. I thank Mr. Ajay Bajpai from the bottom of my heart on behalf of TNV Academy for giving his valuable time and accepting our invitation to be the guest speaker for today. I also thank all the participants for taking out time from their busy schedule and joining us in the webinar today. We will be seeing you all again soon with an exciting new topic through another webinar. Wish you all a very best of luck on behalf of TNV Academy for all your future endeavors. Thank you for your participation. Thank you so much.